Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all happy and healthy this morning and ready to learn more of the stories of the tribes of Israel. We've been talking about the tribes of Israel for a long time. We learned about how there were 12 tribes, and those 12 tribes said that they wanted a king. They had had rules given to them by God and they had had judges, but they said they wanted a king. So God gave them kings, but because some of those kings were wicked, God split the nation. He split up the 12 tribes. And 10 tribes became the nation of Israel. And we talked about how they were captured by the Assyrians because they still had wicked kings. And one of those tribes became the nation of Judah. And we talked about how they were captured by the Babylonians. And we talked about Daniel and his friends who were also captured by the Babylonians. They were from Judah. But today we're going to talk about how someone named Esther became queen of Persia. And Esther was from the tribe of Benjamin. So we had 10 tribes that were captured by Assyria. And then we had one tribe that was captured by the Babylonians. That's 11 of them. And so the last tribe, the tribe of Benjamin, was taken by King Xerxes, the king of Persia. And that's where we're going to start our story today. But before we start, I just want to add that it's important to understand for this story that a lot of the people in it, like King Xerxes and Queen Vashti, were not believers in God. They did not follow God, and so the way that they make their decisions and the things that they believe are right or wrong are not based on that. So just remember that as we listen to the story. So at this time, someone named King Xerxes was king of Persia. He was Xerxes. That's another really interesting, unique name. So try saying it. Say Xerxes. And he ruled in a place called the Citadel of Susa. And he had had a lot of military victories, so he had conquered a lot of lands. And so he decided to have parties. So first, he had a 180-day party. 180 days. And right after that, he decided to have another 7-day party. So he had parties for 187 days. That would be like if we started having a party on Christmas and kept on having a party until last week. That's a really long party. Now, during this party, some of the party guests started bragging about who had the most beautiful wife. And King Xerxes was married to a woman named Queen Vashti. That was her name. It was Queen Vashti. And he said that she was the most beautiful. And he wanted to prove it to his party guests. So he sent messengers to go tell Queen Vashti to come to the party so that the men could see that she was the most beautiful. Now, Queen Vashti was having a party for the women of the castle at the same time that the king was having a party. So when the messengers came to tell her that she had to go to the king's party and show them how beautiful she was, she didn't want to do it, and all of her party guests saw her say this. They saw her say that she would not do what the king asked her to do. And when King Xerxes heard about this, he was very angry. And I didn't draw him with an angry face here, but you can go ahead and practice your angry faces. The king was very angry because queens were supposed to do everything that the king told them to do. In fact, everyone was supposed to do everything the king told them to do, but especially the queens. So Xerxes was so angry, and he asked his royal advisors. He said, "What should I do? My queen didn't do what I said." And they said, "You have to do something really serious, because if you don't, all of the women in the kingdom will hear that Queen Vashti disrespected you, and they will think that it's okay to not do what their husbands ask. And it has to be even more serious because all of her party guests already saw this. They already saw her say she wouldn't do what you wanted her to do. So you have to punish her so that they all know that what they saw was not okay." So the king and his advisors agreed that Queen Vashti should be banished. She should never ever be allowed to be seen by the king again, and she should not be allowed to be queen anymore. So essentially, King Xerxes divorced Queen Vashti, and then he had her sent away so that it would show all of the other women in the kingdom that it was not okay not to do what men asked them to do. But King Xerxes still wanted to have a beautiful wife. So he sent his officials out to collect beautiful young girls from the kingdom. They were supposed to be beautiful and young and then go back to the palace, and they would have more beauty treatments done so that they would be even more beautiful for the king. And then he would pick one of them, whoever he found to be the most pleasing, to become his queen, but the rest would all stay at his palace and they would live there and not go back to their families. Now there was a man named Mordecai. His name was Mordecai, and he worked in King Xerxes' palace. And he heard what was going to happen, and he knew that his niece, who he was taking care of, would probably have to go to the palace with King Xerxes' officials because she was young and beautiful. But he also knew that because he and his niece came from the house of Benjamin, he knew that they weren't Persians, but instead they were Israelites, they were Jewish, that she could be in danger because people didn't treat the Israelites, the people that they had conquered, the same as they treated the Persians. So it might be dangerous for her if anybody in the palace found out where she came from. And so he told her that she had to keep it a secret where she came from. She couldn't tell anybody. So Mordecai's niece, who was a girl named Esther, was taken to the palace, and she did just as her uncle told her and didn't tell anybody that she was from the house of Benjamin. And when she went to the palace, they assigned her assistants and they gave her beauty treatments. For a full year, they gave all of the young women that they had taken beauty treatments, and then they presented them to the king, and he was to choose which one he found the most pleasing. So when Esther went to the king, she took only the things that her advisors told her to take, and she acted just like they told her to, and the king found her to be the most beautiful and most pleasing of all of the young women, and he crowned her queen of Persia. And now Esther would live in the palace and be queen with the king. But it was still very important for Esther to keep it a secret where she came from and that she was from the house of Benjamin, because even though she was queen now, she could still be in danger if the king found out that she had kept this secret and where she really came from. Remember, Queen Vashti was queen, but she was exiled and banished and had her position taken away from her just for not going before the king. So imagine how much danger Esther could be in if the king found out what happened, that she had kept this a secret and that she was actually of the house of Benjamin and Mordecai's niece. Make sure you watch the video next week so that you can find out what happens after Esther becomes queen. Miss Penny will be teaching about that, and it's a really great story to learn about. There's a lot of ways that we can learn from Esther, and she's just a great story. So make sure you listen next week so you know what happens. Until then, I hope everybody has an amazing week. Bye, guys!